Ladies, have you been wanting to make a change, but you don't feel ready? Here's the truth. Readiness is a lie. The model of confidence for women is backward, and we need to flip it. I'm Cara Moeller Poppitt, author of a new book, Big Freaking Change. After coaching thousands of women, I discovered action gives us confidence, not the other way around. If we wait to feel ready, we'll wait forever. So if you're ready to get unstuck and step into the life you've always dreamed about, visit bigfreakinchange.com right now and order your copy. Welcome to the Big Freaking Change podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of those who took bold action, embraced uncertainty, and transformed their lives without ever feeling ready. I'm your host, Cara Moeller Poppitt, author of The Big Freakin' Change and the creator of the Get Unstuck Cycle of Change model. Each week, we'll sit down with remarkable individuals who have taken bold steps in their lives, personally and professionally, to make meaningful change. Whether you're seeking a career shift, personal growth, or a boost in confidence, our goal is to inspire you to stop waiting and start taking action. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Big Freaking Change. I'm your host, Cara Moeller Poppitt. I'm so excited to be here with a dear friend, Kassy LaBorie. She is an amazing tech expert and also has an ability to connect through tech. Kassy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Cara. I am delighted to be here.
So before we begin, I'm going to read your bio so everyone knows your incredible brilliance because we're so excited to have you here. Kassy LaBorie is a trainer's trainer, a passionate advocate for human connection in a tech-filled world. She champions facilitators, trainers, and learning leaders in showing up with confidence and authenticity online, on stage, and everywhere in between. With heart, humor, and courageous energy, Kassy proves that real learning begins when we dare to connect. I gotta say, I love your bio. It's very amazing that you have this ability to connect through tech and you bring this authenticity, your whole self, the good, the bad, all of us, and you allow other people to do the same. Talk to me about how that became, your nature.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I was thinking about that in preparation for today. What was the first time that showed up specific to how it relates to tech? And it goes back to my very first virtual training job, which was the late 90s. And I was a product trainer at WebEx. And I remember going in, this was WebEx before it was Cisco. And I went in to learn how to do the training. And it was a whole bunch of screenshots of here's the chat. And they would go over what the chat was. And here's the whiteboard and how you use these tools. And it was all these screenshots. And I kept thinking, I have an idea. Why don't we just use the chat? And then we can show them what happened after they used it. Why are we telling them and not having them just use it? So why don't we just say, how are you? And then don't answer on the phone at that time. Use the chat instead. Well, where is it? Oh, let me show you. They'll learn in the moment of need, you could say.
Yeah.
And that moment of connecting in a real way with a real purpose really is foundational to everything that I teach today. Rather than tell you about it, why don't I have you come along and do it and be part of it with me, which, requires me to show up in a different way than maybe what we think we should do, which is, at least in the world of learning and development, there can be this default of like, let me tell you everything and then we'll get to it. And my default has always been, hold up, let's find out what y'all think and who you are and what you need. And then I'll show you how this can plug in to that moment for you.
Yeah, it's so important, the power of being connected to people, right? When we feel seen, heard, and valued, we're more likely to ask better questions. We're more engaged. We're going to retain the information. And I think you do that so well. I remember in our group, if we had any tech issues, you'd never made anyone feel less than when we're trying to figure it out. And I think that's an incredible gift of a trainer. Tell me about all of the things that you do. So I know you have books, you're doing training, you're speaking, you're doing keynotes, and tell me what's in your life right now.
It's all of those things. It seems that though people have been using Zoom and WebEx and Teams and all these online meeting tools quite a bit since the last couple of years, they still are seeking ways to make that better. And I know for me, I have this sort of principle, this guiding thing that I've often lived by, which is learn the tech, use the heck out of the tech, and then get over the tech. And, that has served me well, because even though we have maybe learned it and we've used the heck out of it, whether we wanted to or not, we haven't gotten to the place where we've gotten over it yet. And so I live in that space of helping you get over it. But of course, you can't get over something that you don't know how to do or that you're not familiar with. You're not allowed to be like, I'm really good at it, but I've never touched it. So I'm helping people get past that. And it has always been my belief and experience that it's more about how you're feeling than maybe what you're clicking on, which, I think is so connected to what you do with courage, actually. If I have the courage to just let them use the chat, even though I'm not sure how it works or what it does, or if it'll even work if I let this many people use it, if I just go, who cares? Let's do it. Then we can figure it out together, which is so much about why your message, right from the moment I first heard it, resonated very deeply with me, because so much of tech,
Yeah.
AI, so much of what we're doing today, you just got to jump in,
Yeah.
jump on the train and figure it out. And it's certainly very frightening to do that. But if you don't do it, then you miss it.
You miss it. That was my experience with Chat GPT. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to use this. When it came out, I'm like, this feels so crazy. And now I'm like, love it. It's my BFF. Program the prompt,
Is
spit
it
it
like the
out,
first
edit
window
it.
that you open up every day now, too? I realized that this week. I was like, I'm actually opening up Chat GPT before I open my email.
That's good. That's good. Cassie, tell me about the biggest freaking change you've made and why that was important to you and if you felt ready.
Oh, okay. Well, there's two. One was back in 2017 when I decided to work for myself officially and form the LLC. And that was huge. I'd always been full-time employed with various tech companies, training companies, global ones. And, you have that consistent every 2-week paycheck. And I made that big, gigantic freaking change. And that first one was probably the most epic one. And I got to tell you, like, as much as I was afraid of it, I was more afraid of not doing it. It felt more uncomfortable to not do it at that time. So then I did it and it was scary, and then it was working itself out. And then you fast forward to 2020 and 21 when you and I met. And that was when I decided to go for the thing that was really in there, really, really deep in there. Maybe it was 2022, but
Yeah, I
it
think
was
2022.
very, very frightening for me. And it
Yeah.
actually still is. You can
Yeah.
hear even in the tone of my voice right now change, where I'm like, so the other one is, and I'm still working on that. And it is something that is, I think, such a big mindset shift for me all the time. And it's a daily practice of, what it is, keynote speaking and being on the big stages and owning that space
Yeah.
and performing at that level is something that is deep inside of me that I really, really want. And I've done it and I want more of it. And I need to get way better at it, and all the things are there. And so it continues to still frighten me, but I push through
Yeah.
every single day, actually.
I think it's so important when you said, the fear of not doing it is heavier. And I think that's such a great message for all of us when we continue to flex our courage muscle, step out on the big stages, do the keynote, do the freaking thing, sweaty, nervous, being like, why am I putting myself in this? And then you realize you're capable and then you improve. And, we're constantly in refinement. We never arrive. And I think that's a message that so many people need to remember is that we never arrive. We are never going to
Right.
be perfectly polished. We're never going to be completely ready to do the thing, but you develop your confidence through action. A lot of entrepreneurs I've interviewed have had similar experiences where they work full time and now they're going on to be an entrepreneur. When you teach a lot of trainers, are they all entrepreneurs as well? Would you say it's kind of a mix of employee versus entrepreneurs?
It's a mix. It's definitely a mix, but no matter what it may be, they're nervous. And in the role that I am, I'm a trainer who teaches to other trainers. There's a performance level there, and so they're all performing in front of each other as they practice the training. And it's very similar to what you and I experienced together. And there's a vulnerability there, and there's a even though they may have come having done it for years and years, they're going to try something new. And I find it really important to create safe spaces for them so that they can notice the small changes and the things that they're doing to try and to make different. Because especially like when learning how to present via tech, most people, even after they've gone through programming, they're still not good at it. They're going to get good at it the more they
It
do it.
stresses me
And
out
so
every time. I'm always like, oh gosh, is my PowerPoint going to work? Like it's always just a fear. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like what's more important is what I have learned that I can help people with is to feel that they were good enough in that moment, and that it
Yeah.
that it will get better. And You're right. It's like you don't arrive. What you do is you just keep doing things and you keep, I think people like us, like we keep going, okay, it's all right. It wasn't perfect. And I now know how I want to tweak that. And then I tweak that. And then the next thing needs to be tweaked too, because that wasn't good enough for me either. Most of the time, people are like, what are you talking about? It was good enough for me.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing, which is what brings me back to the mindset.
Mhm.
It's really all how you frame it and what you think about it. We get to tell our own stories.
Yes, absolutely. We tell our own stories. And I think as entrepreneurs, we're always up leveling. We want the next thing. We want to refine. We want to reflect. And we want to replace. We want to always have that refinement, and it's through a process. And I remember one trainer that I worked with said, every version you do is never a waste. Like, even if you did this incredible keynote and then you had to rip it apart and start again, it's not a waste because it's allowing you to unfold to the next level of gold or greatness. And that really gives me that mindset I even use in my dance studio, my podcast. Everything that I'm doing it's going to be developed through time and through action, and nothing gets better without action.
And the beautiful thing about when you're in that action too is that it's growing and feeding itself, because when you sit and ponder something in the inaction, you make up all sorts of stories that might happen, that did happen, that didn't happen, that might never happen. But when you're in action, you don't have time for the stories.
Yeah.
You're in the action and you're making sense of what's happening, and then you get to write the story based on fact.
Yeah.
It's
I love
interesting,
that.
and
Yeah.
it's so invigorating. It's so athletic, if you
Yeah,
will.
and I think waiting weighs us down, right? If we wait,
Yes.
we self-analyze, we come up with all the reasons why we shouldn't do the thing, and in big freaking change, we're talking about action first. Confidence comes as a result of taking action. And so with the clients you serve, would you say that you notice their confidence shift when they learn the tech skills, when they learn the new tools? Do you see a difference in their confidence?
100%. I once worked with one woman in particular, and my heart with this one, because she planned everything, and she's an excellent trainer. Her plan for what she wanted to do to engage her learners was well thought out. And ideally what she wanted to do in the virtual environment should have worked too, but she just didn't know how to do any of it. Like, literally, it was her assignment to come and do her final and nothing worked. Like, she did not know how to make it work at all. She thought she knew, she forgot, blah, blah, blah. And what I ended up doing with her was just saying, look, you know what, your plan, what you dreamed of and what you wrote out to do will work. You need to know that that will work. And that was very well thought out. You just got to figure out where to click. And that's your next step. And now you know that, because before you didn't know if this would work here. Now you know, yes, this will work. And all you have to do is figure out this part here. So in my eyes, you have had success today. And she was crying.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
And I'm like, it's okay. It didn't have to work exactly as planned, but you need to know that it will, and that what you've done today is enough to get you to that point.
Yeah, and it's always the stepping stones, right? I think we all want perfection, and so when we fall short, we give up too early. And even people that make big freaking changes, so they decide to open up their business, they decide to learn a new tech tool and it doesn't go well. Often we give up too quickly and we disqualify ourselves too early on. Maybe you can speak to that too in the tech world, where if you're feeling a little frustrated or overwhelmed, you see people kind of relapse and not utilize instead of embrace the fear and go anyway.
Yeah, and I really very much believe in that. And I think a lot of us are working remotely today too. And if we're not working remotely, we're still on our own when we're using tech. It's not like you get together. I mean, unless you
Yeah.
specifically, there are people who do this, the fail jams and things, and the dev camps, which is really fun and interesting. Oftentimes we're alone when we're sitting with tech and trying to figure it out. For me, a game changer has been to reach out to other people and to get outside of my own head or whatever might be happening in my social media feed that tells me that those people have it all figured out and I don't.
Yeah.
I reach out to other people and start not only learning from them, but then using them as guides and mentors. Sometimes they don't even know that I'm doing that. I just reach out and I'm like, can you help me with this? And then they do. And then they become like, I follow them and I'm learning more things. But really leaning into getting outside of my own head, really, and
Yeah.
saying I can be among other people that are in the same boat. Because there's something about that, right? If we connect with each other when we realize, oh, you don't get that feature either. I'd never understood it. And then all of a sudden, all this stuff, all these stories, all that you've built up around it, they go away. And then you go, let's figure this out together.
Yeah, you lean in to the challenge. Yeah, instead of ignore. So tell me a little bit about your books and what brought you to doing those.
Yeah, there's so fun. Thank you for asking. My book, Interact and Engage, I've got 2 editions of it, and essentially my dream about it always was that it was like a cookbook of
Oh,
recipes. Yeah, and it's not that I'm not even a cook, but the reason it came about is because I learned tech, and then people would go, okay, in the training world, normally I do this when I'm teaching my class in person. How do you suggest I do it here in WebEx, Teams, Zoom, whatever it is? And so I'd go, you could do this. And then I would like think of all the things that I knew that the tech was capable of and bring that together for them and say, what do you think? And so the book is actually the collection of that over the years. And so when we did the first edition, we did 50 examples of that. And then the second edition came out just a couple of years ago with 75 examples. And, even today I would have 75 more because there's always like, I was in a meeting today actually I'm doing a webinar with Adobe Connect and they have new features. And I'm like, are you serious? It does that? And then my whole world is like, okay, here's what we're going to do and how we're going to deliver that now. Like I changed the whole plan for something that I'm presenting next week because of a
yeah.
new feature.
Yeah, and I think that's the evolution of technology and not just technology, but our lives, right? We have to be open to change. So when there's new features, new functions, if we just ignore them, we're missing out on what could be. And I think that's a lesson in life too, is that we have to embrace change. And even the word change usually triggers negative emotion in people. So when you're training people and you're introducing a big change, what are some of their obstacles that typically come up in their mindset?
The first thing that comes to mind is that people don't necessarily understand how that thing relates to them,
Mm,
whether that's going to take something away from them or if it truly would improve because am I not fine as I am?
yeah.
And I remember when we first got the Chat GPT announced in our lives, it was like, I don't need that, like you mentioned. But then I was like, I should probably learn it, and I was trying to figure out how to learn it. And it occurred to me, which is something I always do for myself anyway, is like I gotta learn it in my own way that makes sense to me. Because otherwise I'm not gonna lean in. And so one of the very first things that I did, and this is what I try to help people do when we're in a change, is try to figure out what's the thing for you that's going to make you want to lean in. And so for me, with the Chat GPT as one example, I had it write, I had to do 2 things. One, I had it write my bio, because who knows me better than me? And then I'm like, oh, okay, I see where you got that correct and what's missing. And
Yeah.
then the second thing that I had to do is you can kind of see over my shoulder here. I have collected the original Barbies and the knockoff Barbies from the 60s since I was young. And
I
so
remember.
I am deep knowledge on Barbie collecting. And I had ChatGPT tell me all about vintage Barbie and the collector world. And I was like, I see. And then I took it another level and I said, what would a webinar presented by Barbie be like? And I did a
Yeah.
whole research on it and I was like, this is so interesting because as far as I'm concerned, I know that answer already, right? So I was working within what would engage me to learn the process of how you prompt, what it gives out and how to validate data from that.
Yeah.
And so I went to my own stuff, which I don't need any of that data, maybe except the bio, but I don't need any of that data about Barbie for anything I do in my work. And so I was
Yeah.
just using Barbie as the example of deep subject matter knowledge so that I could like lean into without any pressure. And
Yeah.
it helped. It just opened up the whole world from there, actually. And I was like, all right, I got you. I got you. I know what I can do now.
Oh, yeah, and I talk to my Chat GPT like, "Hey," I'll always be like, "Hey, hoping you're having a great day." Like, I just talk it's like my BFF. And then my chat will be like, "Hey, would you also like this?" I'm like, "Yes, please, sounds great." Gives it to me. "Hey, would you also like a design?" "Yes, sounds awesome. Make it fun and fresh with these colors." "You got it." And it's just like back and forth. And what it does is it teaches you, where your limits are and where you can expand. And all these new ideas came. I'm like, "Oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. That's great," or "This wouldn't work. Here's why." And when you really, really train it to filter the information, it's so incredibly in sync. Like after you do the work, it's
Yeah.
incredible.
It's like applying that, like finding the thing that's
Yeah.
gonna make you engage with the thing. Another place that it played out that wouldn't be tech, but like in my business was really leaning into, I really love color. And, all the corporate jobs I have had have always been, like you got to do what we do and use our template and blah. And not that I didn't like it, but I had this freedom of like, I'm going to figure out how pink and aqua can play out in my business and the level of joy that that brings me. Like, how can I have sparkles and glitter? And I have a brand that is the virtual training hero and the training hero. Like, I use superheroes all over the place. And, sometimes I'm like, is it childish? No, no, it's really happy. And people know me for it and they're really happy and they want it and they're tracking me down to get their glitter stickers. And so, those things are playing into, all right, let me learn where I can be better at business with my glitter and my heroes and my pink and aqua.
Well, that's your authenticity, right? It's like bringing all parts of you to the stage and making it playful and joyful and stand out. And I remember when I started speaking, I was not going to talk about my dancing. I was like, no, no, I'm a speaker now. Like, I'm just going to do my presentation. And the feedback I got was, yeah, but you're a dancer, so why wouldn't you incorporate that? I'm like, well, because it doesn't make sense. They're like, no, that's the part of you that makes it interesting and unique and different. And it's so true. Like, sometimes we only want to bring a part of us to work. And I think you're a great example of bringing all of yourself to work and attracting people that really resonate and allowing them to unfold what makes them unique and show up and shine in their way.
I love that about your story so much. It really spoke to me too, because I'm like, is it okay that I'm doing glittery hero things? you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, and then that was a big part of what we learned together too, isn't it? That your audience will find you and then you can be so fully present in front of your audience, right?
Yeah.
Because that's who you are. And when you're
Yeah.
trying to put yourself someplace else, that's maybe contributing to that fear. And maybe sometimes it's not about like, I need to do the thing that I'm afraid of. It's not only about that. It might also be about, well, maybe you also just need to lean into who you really are so that when you're there, the feedback comes to you in a way that's like, oh yeah, your people get you, you know?
Yeah, and I remember just feeling like I'm a business owner, I'm a speaker, I'm a dancer. I got the wild side of me on the dance floor, but I didn't want to bring that really to the stage. And now I'm like, no, you are just you, right? These are different dimensions of you, and you're going to adjust based on your environment. And it gives you like a sense of personal freedom to go, this is who I am. And being fully expressed is showing all parts of me, the good, the bad, the crazy, the dance party, all of me. And it allows people to let their fear go because they see other people living fully. And everybody wants that. That's what you notice in a room. Nobody wants you to play small unless you're very, very uncomfortable with yourself, then you feel comfortable in that. But really, it's so good to give yourself permission to be. You give yourself permission to be. And in doing so, it allows others to give themselves permission to be. And I think that's where joy is created. That's where fun laughter is created. My sister and I just ran a little portion of a marathon. I did 5 kilometers. Okay. We didn't train. We were like, yeah, we're going to do this. It's for my friend whose daughter has cancer. And we're like, we're all about support. Let's go. So we get there and we start laughing. We're like, okay, let's warm up. Let's start training right now. And we're dying laughing and we just break out into dancing because she's a dancer too. And then all these people around us start dancing and like putting their hands up. Like, everyone wanted to be part of it. And at the beginning, people were like, what are these two crazy people doing? Right. But then everyone wants to be a part of the joy. And I think that's the lesson. And that's the ability to continue to discover more about ourselves and present and be fully expressed. And I love that for you. I feel like you bring the joy and you bring that to the stage and to other people because you're comfortable in those aspects.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, Cassie, I want to talk a little bit about change. And, in the tech world, I feel like tech is changing all the time. What is a reasonable time frame for the average person or an entrepreneur that needs to kind of revisit their tech best practices? Is it something we should be looking at annually, monthly? Like, I just feel like there's always a new feature and then you learn something and you go, or updating your technology. Talk to me about what's your recommendation for updating.
Yeah, I don't know that I have any kind of official data backed by any research. It would be completely anecdotal. And how in the world do I stay up to date?
Yeah.
Which it would be important for people to know that I always think, oh my gosh, I'm not keeping up to date. And I think that for me, it's something that's pretty ongoing
Yeah.
on a relatively regular basis. So I'm going to say it's at least monthly for me where I'm going through and looking at what's happening. I have a habit, for example, with Zoom, when I open that, I just check for updates. And again, I lean into community about those things as well. So I try to stay in. But also, I would like to just put out there that I also put up some boundaries for myself because I know where I can get very overwhelmed. And I very much believe that tech is cool, but people are way cooler.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
and so I wanna be, like, in on what's happening, but at the same time, I wanna see what's happening with people, and that would include myself.
Yeah.
And so I do give myself a break on that, but then I also do schedule myself to make sure I'm checking, like, "Hey, what's happening? What new features have come up, and what am I missing?" And, actually, one of the ways that I do that is I schedule myself to present to others the latest and greatest things that I've learned. That's a presentation that I'm doing very soon. It's something about my favorite things. Every once in a while, I do these are my favorite things that are keeping me happy in my role today. And that actually motivates me. It's as if, like, if you plan a dinner party, you clean your house and you get a new recipe going. That's what will motivate me to be like, wait, what are the latest features that I haven't paid attention to?
Yeah.
And then I do my best to figure out a way that's going to make sense for me and the Barbies, perhaps
There you go.
present that.
And, I think it's so real and honest to say that we all feel behind. And I think that is just part of human nature is we're evolving and there's so many moving parts and there's so much change. And I think if we resist change, it's going to impact us negatively. So I think all of us need to embrace change, whether it's technology, whether it's embracing our own personal change, because that's where discovery happens, right? And that's where we can really elevate our talents and give back.
And like we're doing our best, right? One time someone said to me an analogy, and I just love this, or maybe it's a metaphor. They're like, "Have you ever dropped your phone?" I'm like, "Yes,
Yeah.
maybe daily." "What do you do when you drop it?" "I pick it up and I keep using it." So, oh, you didn't just let it stay there, you blew it, it's done, you're never using it again? I got you. All right. Tech is like that too. Like, you know what? You're going to know what you're going to know in that moment, and you're going to keep on picking up and going on. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it does work, but it's just like this ongoing process. It's not something that you've arrived, back to
Yeah.
what we talked about moments ago.
Yeah, for sure. Cassie, I'd love for you to explain what courage means to you and how it kind of shows up in your workplace and the people you serve.
I love this. I think that courage is showing up as your full, imperfect self, and having it within you to care out loud.
Mm,
It's amazing to me. For me, it's so connected to other people. I mean, obviously, it's something inside of myself, but whenever I don't communicate with others about what's going on, the story becomes bigger and darker.
yeah.
But if I have the courage to say, hey, the story's been a bit dark and I don't want that, what happens is people go, I've been experiencing something similar or whatever would happen. And then they're like, thank you for being so courageous to share. And what then happens is it just makes it better. And so I really think it's about showing up and allowing imperfection to be there and
Mhm.
and to just breathe through that. And then together we become safe and then ultimately courageous.
Such an important lesson, and especially for women. There's so many studies that show that we're more prone to striving for perfection and we get overwhelmed. And so we procrastinate. And it's like this vicious loop where men will often take action sooner and they believe in their abilities that they'll learn as they go, where women will strive for perfection before they go. And I think that when we can flex our courage muscle to go, okay, give myself permission to go, it's going to be messy, it's not going to be ideal, but there's so much growth and learning in that process and in the uncomfortable zone. So thank you for showing up the way you do. Cassie, where can all of our listeners find more information about you, buy your book, and hit you up if they have any tech need tips?
You can find me at CassieLaBorie.com, and I've got lots of resources there. There are even some fun things like a quiz and a hangout and my books and a newsletter, and all sorts of fun things happen around there. So thank you for asking, and I look forward to having more heroes join in on the community.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Cassie, for your time. And listeners, remember to embrace your fear. Technology, life, whatever your change is, we need to lean in to have an ability to be fully expressed, to show all parts of us with the glitter, with the superheroes, and allow us to be fully seen. Because I think when we allow ourselves to be seen by others, others see themselves and they too open up. And it's this beautiful cycle and a movement that we can create together. So make your freaking change, do the thing, do the hard thing, and you're going to discover more about yourself because it's always in the unfolding. Bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and would be so grateful if you could share it with someone else that could benefit from it. Let's remember to change our relationship to change itself and take aligned action. If we want to make meaningful changes in our lives, we need to embrace stepping into the next version of ourselves in the process. Remember, stop waiting to feel ready and start taking action today.